and welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. Now, if you didn't already get what I was doing when I, did my beautiful introduction, we're going to be covering a little movie today from, I think actually 2013, but it came out in 2014 on like VOD and stuff. And that's a little movie by the name of Nurse 3D. This movie, let me tell you something. So I am doing this movie because it apparently came out in February of 2014, on VOD and in very limited theaters, and we'll talk about that. But this film, listen, I don't know how to even I guess I will explain it today on this episode, but this film is just kind of a garbage mess, but I can't help but enjoy it. Like, really, truly. Just Paz de la Huerta as her own person, as her own self. It's just a sight to behold, really. I mean, truly. I think I became familiar with this movie, honestly, from listening to, shout out Horror Queers. They did an episode on this, I think 2 years ago or something, and that's where I first became aware of it. I was like, what the hell is Nurse 3D? And I was like, I guess I'm going to try and watch this movie. Because as I kind of went down a rabbit hole of it, I was like, oh, this movie is fucking weird as hell. This movie is just kind of camp, but a little bit I don't know, I feel like there is an intentional camp there, but then also it's were they really trying to make an erotic thriller or something? I don't know exactly. I think it fails on all fronts, really, but I don't know. But there's something about it you just can't keep your eyes off of. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's very interesting about this film. But yeah, that's my history with it. Is I came across it, and God, this movie is just fucking. I don't own it or anything, but I probably would own it, to be honest. I'm sure I could get it for kind of reasonable price on Blu-ray or something. But I just. And yeah, I just kind of love the way that Paz de la Huerta speaks in this movie. Abby Russell. God, it's just anyway, I'm gonna keep going on and on, I guess, but as we normally do on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the, production of this movie, all that kind of fun stuff. We'll talk about, the plot and some of the standout scenes. I'll tell you right now, I don't think we have to go too deep into themes right now because there isn't a ton to this movie, but whatever, we'll figure it out. But as we normally do, let's move on to those figures and all that. Now, with this movie, Nurse, or Nurse 3D, because there is that 3D component, this movie was actually premiered in September 28th of 2013 in Zurich, and it was released in the US on VOD and also limited release February 7th of 2020. It was released February 7th of 2014 in the US, and also a limited release as well. So that is why you are hearing this right around the same time that it would have came out in the United States, and all of that. We're looking at 84-minute runtime, and then this was a $10 million budget that this was, and it was also released by Lionsgate. It was distributed by them. And, let's just say this movie only made about $80,231 US for a theatrical, and then even in terms of the actual box office, I don't think they really made much in terms of that back. I think it really didn't get that. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. It made about $800,000 altogether. Not great. But anyway, so then we have for our critic scores and stuff from Rotten Tomatoes, we have 64% out of 25 reviews from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and then 34% from audience from about 1,000 ratings. And this movie is at a 2.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So, yeah. Now, as we talk about our cast and crew a little bit, so we'll talk a little bit about them. So we have the director, who is Douglas Arniakowski, I believe. So he is the general, like, he's the guy who directed this movie. He also directed something called Highlander Endgame, which I don't know what the hell that is, but okay. The Day also is what he did. And a movie called Animals. Okay, cool. He also apparently did a movie called The Safe Side, Stranger Safety, and he did that in 2005, and it teaches you about how to not, it teaches you about how to not talk to strangers, I guess, and to stay safe. So good for him. But he also assistant directed on a couple of things. So he was assistant director on From Dusk Till Dawn, and also like Austin Powers, The International Man of Mystery, 4 Rooms from Quentin Tarantino, and also at least one of the Puppet Master movies. I think it was Puppet Master 4. So yeah. Who was he in The Faculty, though? Wait a minute. It says he's a star of The Faculty. Now we gotta look. You're going on this journey with me, everybody, okay? Apparently Douglas... so apparently the director of this... Brun Coach. Okay, so I guess this guy is a coach in The Faculty? That's kind of interesting. Huh. Oh, and guess what? He also like wrote this movie. Isn't that nice? He actually co-wrote this with David Lowery, something like that. That guy did a Star Trek movie. He did Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which was directed by William Shatner, and also like a movie called Obsessed, and a movie called The Intruder. And Tom and Huck. Remember Tom and Huck from the 90s with Jonathan Taylor Thomas in it? Yeah, well, that guy wrote that. That's fun. So yeah, he directed this movie. And, all that. The composer is Anton Sanko, which we just heard his name because he actually did the music for one of the other movies we just had, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe was... Party Girl. That's what he did. So I'll talk about Party Girl in a couple weeks' time, but yes, he did the song. He did the music for that, but he also did the movie for Ouija. He did the movie for this movie, or he did the music for this movie. He also did Fab Five, the Texas cheerleader scandal. That's fun. Is that the one where they all get pregnant at the same time? No, maybe not. What is this one? I don't know. I guess they did some shit. And that Fab Five movie was directed by Tom McLaughlin. Yeah. We love that. Anyway, so yeah. And then what else? Who else is in this? The guy who shot this movie, his name is Boris something. Hold on, I'm going to find it real quick. It is Boris Mojovsky, I believe. So he's the cinematographer of this movie. He also worked with Doug before on The Day. He was the cinematographer of that. And also, I don't really know what else he did, to be honest. Okay, so he did those things. That's pretty much it. And then anybody else of note? Anybody else fun to kind of look at? And Andrew Coates, who's the editor of this movie. Let's see what else he did. Where is it? Let me look real quick. I'm just on my phone right now, looking all this shit up. So he was actually part of the Saw franchise. So he did Saw 6 and Saw 3D, and he also did a movie called Blood-Sucking Bastards. So that's fun. And then, that's kind of like the main people. Of course, you have Mark Beinstock, who's the producer of this movie. So he's like a Lionsgate producer. So he did like Old and Split, Knock at the Cabin, things like that. So that's what he did with producing. Yeah. And then like the assistant director of this, he actually had worked with... he did Death Proof and like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and like Spy Kids all the time in the world, apparently. So he was the assistant director on this movie. Oh, and then also, I guess, another person of note, if anything, would be Zaldi. Zaldi is the... so what they're kind of known for is doing RuPaul's, like, gowns and outfits and stuff. So that's kind of what they're known for to do. But they did the costumes for this, which kind of makes sense. And the makeup was done by a Canadian person by the name of Steven Kostanski. And so he actually did this makeup, but he also did the makeup for Clown and also the first It movie as well. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, that's what we're looking at in terms of crew that we can think of in terms of any note. And then for the cast, we have the one, the only, Paz de la Huerta as Abigail Russell. Yeah, so if you don't know Paz de la Huerta, she's in, like, mostly well known for being in Enter the Void, I guess, which is a Gaspar Noé film. I have watched it, and it's a trip, but it's actually not a bad movie. I don't think it's terrible. She's also in A Walk to Remember. She plays one of the bad girls, along with Lauren German from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. She's also in the Cider House Rules as well, with Tobey Maguire. God, who else? She's in The Editor as well, which is a little spoof on, like, giallo movies, like horror movies and stuff, which is kind of fun. And we'll talk a little bit about Paz de la Huerta in a little bit. So she's the main person of this movie. She plays Abby Russell. Then we have Katrina Bowden. So Katrina Bowden is from like One Life to Live. And she's a Jersey girl. I think a lot of people would know her from being in Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is actually a really decent film, I think. She plays the love interest to Dale, I believe. So she's also in American Reunion, apparently, as well. And she's also in Scary Movie 5. Oh, dear Lord. No. We're not going to talk about that movie. I do not like those later movies. They're not that good. So anyway, but that is Katrina Bowden. She plays Danny Rogers. Then we have Judd Nelson. So if you don't know who Judd Nelson is, so he is from kind of the Brat Pack, if you will. Like, he was in The Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, New Jack City. He was Brooke Shields' boss on Suddenly Susan back in the 90s. He's kind of been in a bunch of different things. So Judd Nelson, very well known. He was just in the Brooke Shields documentary that came out about her life. And all of that. So he's pretty well known. He plays Dr. Robert Morris. Corbin Bleu from High School Musical. He was in this movie where he plays Danny's boyfriend, Steve. And then also you have two-time Emmy Award winner for daytime and primetime Emmy, Miss Niecy Nash-Betts. Queer icon, we love her. She is from Reno 911. She's from Clean House. She was in the Dahmer series, which she won a primetime Emmy for that. And then also she's in this playing Regina. But yeah, she's an icon, and we love Niecy Nash here. Martin Donovan's in this movie as well. He plays the therapist. He plays Danny's stepfather, but he's a therapist to Abby, I guess. He's obviously most well known for being, well, of course, I will always know him as Pastor Skip from Saved, but also he was in the remake of Ring, The Ring, pretty much. He's in A Haunting in Connecticut. He is in Malcolm X. He's been in all sorts of things. Okay, you know this man. But yeah, that's him. Let's see who else. I don't know who Boris Kojo is. I don't really know him like that. Apparently he was in like a few Resident Evil movies. He's been like a Medea movie before. Hey, listen, we all need a job. We all need to work. So I get it. Apparently he was German born, and that's fun. And he was a model. He was very handsome, I will give him that. But yeah, apparently he was on Soul Food back in the day. And he's also on Real Husbands of Hollywood. Oh, my. Anyway, so yeah, but that's him. He plays the detective in this movie. Kathleen Turner got 5 minutes in this movie. Good for her. Okay, like, oh dear Lord in heaven. Yeah, I mean that's like pretty much our cast that I could really think of. There's nobody else of like particular note in this movie that I could really think. So that's what we have in terms of that. Now, we went over the cast, we went over the crew, all that good stuff. So then we got to talk a little bit about this film. So the production of this movie took place from September to October of 2011. And pretty much what happened was that in about April of 2011, Doug actually signed on to direct this movie called The Nurse 3D, which was produced by Lionsgate. And like I said, Zaldi was the costume designer. They would have been really hot off of, doing RuPaul's stuff a little bit if they had. I think they were around that time anyway. So, by the by, the film itself is inspired by the photography of then Lionsgate chief marketing officer, a guy by the name of Tim Palin. So Tim Palin is a photographer. He was also a marketing executive. And he got very well known to, he did some photography for, a couple of movies. So Bug, High Tension, Hostel, and Saw. So he did like a couple of those like photo shoots there. He did a lot of fashion photography or just like, really weird photography, I guess, or whatever the hell. But yeah, apparently that's kind of one of the things, because one of the big things he did was he did a campaign for blood drives for Saw. So a long-running promotional campaign for the Saw franchise was that they suggested a blood drive to increase visibility from this. And they thought it was a good idea. And so Palin photographed, I believe it was, who was it? It was somebody by the name of Schmick. Who is that, though? So anyway, pretty much what happened was they shot this picture of a nurse with blood-smeared cleavage for the poster. And so in preparation of the release of Saw 2, Palin expanded the blood drive to 10 states. And then by Saw 3, it was even further, and he actually asked Tobin Bell, who is Jigsaw, to donate his own blood to mix into the ink with the poster. And although Lionsgate had advertised the 2010 installment of the Saw franchise as the final chapter, they revived the series in 2017 with Jigsaw. And he revisited the blood drives as well. But also this time it was challenging the American Red Cross because if you're gay, you could not give. I still think it's hard for you to give blood technically. So yeah. Anyway, but needless to say, because of Palin's interest in this type of photography and being that he's a marketing executive in charge of all that stuff, I think that's kind of where this came from, is just his own photography for a way bigger movie than this. So that's pretty much what happened there. I mean, I really don't think, like I said, he wrote the movie with somebody else. Like, it's not like this was something that was like, art. Okay, like it was supposed to be something where it was just like sexy stripper nurses and like not even stripper nurses, but like just sexy nurses, like, you know what I mean? Like that's what this was. And it's interesting too, because I guess I'll talk about it a little bit once we get to the release, but yeah, so they ended up getting Paz de la Huerta, and then about a month later, Corbin Bleu came on, and yeah, that's what they did. And then, so principal photography took place, like I said, from September to October of 2011. And then during filming of this movie, Paz de la Huerta was actually struck by a stunt ambulance that was supposed to drive by her. And so the production actually later paid $73,000 in workers' comp fees for her injuries. So that happened, right? And then in 2015, De La Huerta actually sued the producers of this movie, so that Mark Bernstock guy or whatever. She pretty much sued all these people for $55 million, claiming that the overdub that was done by another actress in this film had infringed on her rights and damaged her career. And needless to say, the lawsuit was not successful. So if you do decide, or if you have seen this movie, or if you decide to go and look for this movie and you watch it, it was on Roku channel for a minute. You may be wondering, wait a minute, is that Paz de la Huerta's voice in this voiceover? And I will tell you, no, it is not. Because apparently she was so bad at it that they had to have somebody else come in and overdub it, pretty much. I will say, though, too, with this, though, because I don't want to just shit on Paz de la Huerta, even though I don't know where exactly... If you sue for $55 million, I don't think you're winning that case personally, but okay, I'm not a lawyer. But I will say, from what I gathered, because I remember watching an interview with Miss de la Huerta, and I believe that she was kind of dealing with some substance stuff. I think she was like addicted to pills at one point, from what she had said. So maybe she was just going through a time where, you know, she was actively addicted to something. I don't know. This is all alleged, but if she's come out and said like, hey, look, I had a bit of an issue back in the day, or like whatever, then it wouldn't surprise me if that was also during around this time, maybe, is what it seemed like. Because I don't know, like the way she performs is just, I don't know. And the thing is if you watch any of her other stuff, like it's not like she has this, like, she doesn't have this huge range, you know what I mean? But like, it's one of these things where I'm just like, yeah, in this movie, it's very, could be very wooden, if you will. But yeah, needless to say, that it was not exactly a, yeah, the Hollywood Reporter reported on it and all of this, and they, yeah, she did not win, needless to say. Anyway, so then this was released by the Film Arcade in about 10 U.S. theaters, like I said, on February 7th, and it was released video on demand by Lionsgate. And let's just say this movie did not do very well in terms of release or any of that stuff. I will also say, too, that I was looking up, I tried to find information about this movie, really, and it's not like I can find a ton on it, which is why the kind of production history is a little sparse. But, you know, I did also see that, like, a lot of people, actually, nurses at the time in 2013 to 2014, you know, they actually had a petition. That pretty much was boycotting this, you know, movie, saying that this kind of thing is detrimental to the profession of nursing and it shouldn't be around and it should be, you know, boycotted and whatever. And I always want to give people, I don't know about the benefit of the doubt necessarily in this case, but like, I think it's more so just like, everyone's feelings are valid, you know, but I think with this movie in particular, I mean, it really was just this kind of like silly erotic thriller, honestly. And I, for one, am somebody who I have worked in a hospital before. I used to work in human resources in a hospital, so I'm familiar with at least what it's like to work in, I guess, the business side of a hospital, and seeing people come in and getting hired all the time, and then people leaving and all this kind of stuff. But a hospital is a very intense environment, and I will say that nurses, yeah, it's fucking tough, dude. And you know, it kind of ranges from all sorts of different people, but like, you know, I think it's a profession that is very can be a little shat upon, if you will, but like also I think it's super duper important. I mean, literally nurses do make the hospital run, I think, and it's just, they're very important. And so I never want to, you know, it's never a thing of demeaning or anything like that. You know, it's you're with the patient the most, you know what I mean? I get on a whole soapbox about that, believe you me. But, you know, I just think that this movie in particular, I don't think it was trying to to offend anybody. I don't think it was trying to like do anything crazy like that. It really was just more so. I think this honestly just came from the idea of like this kind of successful photo campaign for Saw, and for the Saw sequels. I think it really just came kind of from that. Like, let's take this sexy nurse with blood on her, and then, let's make a story about that, pretty much, is what that is. Because it's interesting that when you even look at, like, the photos for this movie, one of them is literally Paz de la Huerta, just like naked, because she's been naked throughout this whole fucking movie, just covered in blood. So, I mean, it's pretty on the nose, I think, in that way. But yeah, so Frank Scheck from The Hollywood Reporter, he criticized the direction and script writing, saying, quote, director Doug, I never know how to say his last name, Arnaskovsky, oh my God, Doug A. And co-screenwriter David Lowery failed to infuse the overly familiar elements with the necessary dark humor. You then have Neil Genslinger of the New York Times, who commented, doesn't have any of the wit that a film like this needs to have, needs to give it campy coolness. Also, apparently Peter Sobzinski, some of these names, y'all, I cannot, but he actually gave it a positive review. It rated it 2.5 stars, writing, quote, it is ridiculously lurid trash from start to finish, and anyone trying to argue otherwise is just as crazy as its central character. However, while its aim may be low throughout, it at least comes close to consistently hitting its targets. And then the Village Voice gave it a negative review, opening that it, quote, never truly embraced its B-movie trashiness. I can agree with Scott, though, or sorry, Peter. I can agree with him, though, because it is ridiculously lurid trash. So it kind of knows that it is, in a way, I feel like. The folks from Shock Till You Drop remarked that while they could understand why people would not like this film, it would have a solid appeal for, quote, those very special people out there with very special tastes that embrace the, quote, awful and know how to have a little bit of fun. And FearNet's Scott Weinberg also echoed this statement, saying that the film was, quote, nothing resembling a deep intellectual or insightful horror flick, but that it was, quote, however, just a bit of good, gruesome fun if you enjoy body count horror combined with a basic but serviceable plot yanked straight from out of single weight female. And so I think that's kind of what it all has to say about it. Like, really, is this movie, it is lurid trash. And you know what? I like some trash here and there. As you may well know if you listen to my show. Of course, like I love some trash. Can't get enough of it. Apparently also the director did not want, he admitted that he would not make another movie in 3D because of all the demands of this format. And a lot of the 3D effects were CGI'd in afterward to save time and money on build sets as well. So yeah, I mean, like, really, that's what I have to say in terms of this. So let's get a little bit into the story. Again, there's only so much here, but we will go through it. So pretty much Abby Russell, who's played by Paz de la Huerta, she works as a nurse at All Saints Hospital, but is secretly a serial killer who targets unfaithful men. She murders a man by severing his femoral artery and then throws him off of the roof of a nightclub. The following day, she attends the graduation ceremony of nurse Danny Rogers, played by Katrina Bowden, a student she mentored, and meets Danny's mother and stepfather, Larry Cook, who's played by Martin Donovan. However, Danny is ill-prepared for her first day on duty, and her superior, Dr. Morris, played by Judd Nelson, berates her for not responding quickly to an emergency. Abby views the situation with disgust, as she knows that Dr. Morris is a sadist who takes pleasure in tormenting new nurses. Abby is further irritated when Danny chooses to call her paramedic boyfriend Steve, played by Corbin Bleu, for support rather than approaching Abby herself. She is pleased when Danny's call to Steve ends badly due to a fight over Danny's refusal to move in with him. She explains to Abby that she is unwilling to trust her stepfather enough to leave him alone with her mother, and this distrust is later justified when Abby and Danny witness her stepfather having an affair while the two women are on their way to go drinking at a nightclub, which results in Danny drinking that night. Unbeknownst to her, however, Abby spikes her drink with a date rape drug, enabling Abby to get Danny to have sex with both her and random strangers. And the next day, Danny wakes up to find herself in Abby's apartment and leaves, despite Abby's plea for Danny to skip work and spend the day with her. Afterwards, Abby downloads several photos that she's taken from the previous night before leaving to see a psychiatrist, revealed to be Larry. Then Abby seduces Larry by saying that she's addicted to men, alluding to her past history with her father. Confirming that he is unfaithful to Danny's mother, Abby shows up at his place of work one day and convinces him to give her a ride, during which she paralyzes him with vecuronium bromide, resulting in a car accident. After hearing of her stepfather's death, Danny seeks solace from Abby, only for Abby to grow angry when Danny says that she will move in with her boyfriend. Abby comments that she hopes that Larry's genitals were severed in that car crash, and when Danny realizes that Abby knows about the car crash, even though Danny never told her how he died, Danny leaves. This infuriates Abby, who decides that she will now hurt Danny instead of helping her. She slowly convinces Detective John Rogan, played by Boris Kojo, that Danny is actually mentally unstable and obsessed with her. The next day, Abby runs into Rachel Adams, a new human resource employee, I guess the manager, who remarks that Abby greatly resembles a girl that she knew that was sent to a mental institution. Also, Rachel is played by Melanie Scrofano, and she is a Canadian, but she is actually probably most well known for being the coke-addicted sister in Ready or Not. But she's also just like a Canadian actress. Anyway, back to our plot. So yeah, HR girl starts up, and Abby invites her out for drinks and takes the opportunity to harass Danny by calling her via Skype and showing Danny a video of Abby injecting chemicals into Rachel. Danny tries to go to the police, only for Detective Rogan to dismiss her claims as evidence of her trying to hurt Abby because the other woman didn't return her affections. He uses the photographs Abby took as proof to this effect, which Steve sees as a result of Danny summoning him to the police station for support. This prompts an argument between the two, and Steve leaves in a fit of rage on his little motorcycle because he's so cool. Danny tries to approach Dr. Morris for help, only for him to use this as an opportunity to blackmail Abby into having sex with him. And so Abby intentionally pretends to agree to this arrangement, but uses the opportunity to dismember and murder him. That same night, Abby also knocks out Rachel and drags her away to her death. So then Danny goes to the mental institution referred to by Rachel. She learns about a girl named Sarah Price, a little girl who killed her father after learning that he was having an affair, and witnessing him severely beating her mother. So then Danny discovers that a nurse named Abigail Russell at the institution took in Sarah. And so then Danny realizes that Abby is Sarah and has taken the name of her caretaker. Danny then tries to call Rachel on, to warn her about Abby, only to find that Rachel's phone is actually in her car in the trunk. And then she receives a call from Abby, who was just having sex with a cop, who, I think she was having sex with the detective, to be honest, and who implies that she will kill Steve similarly to Rachel. And we're coming to the tail end. So Danny then rushes to the hospital where she and Abby begin to fight. The staff initially tries to intervene, only for Abby to set off on a killing spree and lock herself in a lab. Danny and Steve, they pursue her, and Abby stabs Steve in the neck and runs off. Abby then rushes home, where Detective Rogan confronts her, and noticing that her neighbor Jared, she pretty much pretends like Rogan is trying to rob her, and then Jared ends up hitting him in the head and killing him with a bat. Her neighbor's horrified to discover that Rogan is a cop, but Abby convinces him to hide the body, saying that Rogan was corrupt and that Jared would be badly treated now that he is a cop killer. You know what they do to cop killers. And then, because of all this, Abby then goes to a new hospital, and she then assumes the identity of the human resources manager, Rachel Adams. And she tells us all to have a lovely day, while she gives us a smiley face sticker. And that is the plot of Nurse 3D. So, yeah, you just kind of don't realize what happens the fuck to Danny, honestly. Like, you're just like, all right, well, I guess this is what's going to happen. You don't find out at all. Like, literally, it's just kind of left on a cliffhanger, if you will. And then, yeah. Apparently, though, there was actually a part of this script there in an early draft where actually Danny was going to be like the crazy one, apparently. I didn't find out too much about that, but I thought that was really interesting that if that was in the early script, that they wanted to have that kind of turn for Danny. It would have given Katrina Bowden a little bit more to do, I think, which would have been way more interesting, I think, but it is what it is. Because if anything, this movie is, I don't know, there's not much to it, to be perfectly honest. And, you know, I think some of the like standout scenes that I have for this, because there's kind of no point to go into any sort of like, you know, character breakdown. I mean, obviously, like, our kind of big main characters are Abby and Danny, but, like, you know, they're very one note. Obviously, like, Abby is kind of mentally unwell, and she is, like, literally killing people. And Danny is just somebody who's kind of a, you know, sort of a just bland character, if anything. Like, she's a new nurse, and of course new nurses have it real hard, of course, but like, you know, she doesn't have much to go off of. There's not much depth to her, because there kind of isn't supposed to be, I feel like. So, but yeah, so there's that. And then in terms of like any scenes that kind of stick out, I mean, I will say like the beginning where like Paz de la Huerta, Abby, she's like getting ready and she has the voiceover, and she is like at the club and she seduces the guy and she gets him on the roof of the nightclub or whatever. I always think that that's just like really fun, because just the way she has this whole monologue, and I'll actually, I will read it for you now. I think I can do that real quick. She says, "My name is Abigail Russell. I look like a slut, but don't be fooled. This is merely a disguise to lure the dangerous predators that walk among us. This is their jungle, their breeding ground, and tonight I'm on the hunt. These are the cheaters, the married lying scum. They are like diseased cells, cultured in alcoholic petri dishes, but destroy unsuspecting families and infect millions of innocent vaginas. There is not cure for the married cock, only me, the nurse." And that's literally the only quote that I have. Okay, well, we need to change that, okay? But like, listen. God, Jesus Lord. Anyway, so yeah, that's the beginning, which is super fun. I will say also, I love any of the scenes where Niecy Nash is there. So like, for example, they have the scene where Danny and Steve like are getting it on in like a fucking supply room or something, and Regina is Niecy Nash's character, and so Regina sees her and be like, you know, you only got like 5 more minutes on your break, girl, but you know, hey, like your boyfriend's real cute, so like, you know, maybe I can get a taste. You know, and because I mean, Corbin Bleu is very cute, so I mean, shit, didn't he win Dancing with the Stars or something? I think he did. But anyway, but anything she's in is like super fun, or like when she's pissed off at like Rachel, the HR lady, which I will say too, like just as somebody who's worked in HR in a healthcare setting, I mean, bitch, nobody's that happy. Like, to be perfectly honest with that. Like, not at all. I was like, this is annoying. What the hell? But anyway, so but yeah, so that was like super fun to kind of see that. And again, Niecy Nash is just like chewing the scenery. I love her so much. And then also just like any scene, like this is like wackadoodle high school, wackadoodle hospital, because I mean, you have a whole fucking scene where like, I think it's fucking like the Dr. Judd Nelson. I think he like literally is like having sex with somebody in his office. You know what I mean? And you can just like see her tits like against the window. Like, come on now. Like, this is like a wackadoodle hospital. Like, none of this would ever happen, obviously, which is kind of like the over the topness of it. But really, honestly, just seeing anything that Paola Huerta does in this movie, to be perfectly honest, that's what I'm saying, like, with this film in particular, is that this movie is something where I really do feel like it is, everyone is in a different kind of movie, you know, and Paz is in her own movie, okay? She just is. And it's just so fascinating to me. And it's kind of, it's hard not to just watch it and just be like, wow, this really is just some shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is something to behold, man. One of the things too is that, like, the title card, they say during the last 30 years, the FBI has documented that more murders have occurred within the healthcare profession than any other profession. It has also produced the greatest number of known serial killers. Now, I will already tell you this because I am somebody who I do not really care for true crime like that, so we're not about to go down the angels of death thing. However, I will say that, you know, I mean, yeah, you have some people who are like these quote angels of death who are healthcare workers, generally nurses, who pretty much have that ability, or they pretty much are, a lot of the time what they're doing is they're pretty much doing Munchausen by proxy type stuff, where like literally they're keeping people sick, or they're doing something to make their patient sick so that they can kind of be the savior in, you know, in the situation. I mean, they kind of get a sense of adrenaline, but also like a sense of like, I don't know how to say it, but like, there's like this adulation there, I guess. So it's one of these weird fucked up things, and you also don't know who the fuck you're gonna hurt. So anyway, but yeah, so I see what they're saying with that. I don't know how much researched that is. And it's interesting with vecuronium that comes into this as well, because that actually was a part of a big kind of thing. I don't remember the nurse's name, and I'm not about to go look it up, to be honest. But there was from a couple of years back, there was a case of this nurse who actually used vecuronium, and on a patient or something, and it wasn't because they meant to do it, but they didn't realize, they thought they were giving them some other medication, but they ended up giving them vecuronium, and they didn't realize it apparently, and they actually like literally, they accidentally killed this woman, and it was a whole thing. I think it was Rhonda, something like that. Again, don't quote me. I know what I remember the case. I just don't remember all the ins and outs of it. But like, I do remember that, and I just thought that was interesting if vecuronium came up, because I don't think the person knew. Like the nurse didn't really. She just didn't do her due diligence, is what it sounded like. So, or she was working a little bit too quick, or she was, you know, not doing what she needed to do to make sure she wasn't, you know, giving something not great. But yeah. So there's that, and then I'm trying to think of other scenes that like are kind of worth. I mean, I will say like the end of the movie where like you have this like fucking hospital showdown where like Abby's like killing some of the fucking like patients and stuff, and then you have like her like stabbing Steve, and like, you know, Danny's just running all over the place. It's like a fucking wild thing, man. And I will say that a lot of this 3D does not really work. So like, for example, when she kills Dr. Morris, like just the way she's holding some of this stuff because she has to do it for the 3D effect. And it's just so interesting because I never saw this in 3D. I mean, why would you have? But like, you know, it's one of those things where I am just like, I'm fascinated by like 3D, but I'm not somebody who likes to go to it like that. I don't really think I'm that interested. Fun little thing. I don't love like the 3D, like Friday the 13th, for example. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that movie. So like, that's something where I'm like, screw this. And then like I went and saw like one of the Spy Kids, whichever one was in 3D, that one I think I saw, because I remember seeing that and I got the glasses and shit, you know, because that was cool back in like 2005 or whatever. But anyway, so like that's what I remember doing. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what this movie is about. I don't really know what else I could kind of touch on, really. I think if anything, like, the plot of this movie is kind of bonkers, but it's kind of your quintessential, like, quote, erotic thriller, if you will. I do think there's a level of camp here where I do think, like, they were trying to do something where, you know, I don't know if they were necessarily taking this super seriously. I think they were trying to make a movie, if anything, and they were trying to make it a heightened thing, because obviously, like, this does not happen in a hospital. These nurses do not look like nurses that are actually working in a hospital, which I can attest to. You know, it's just this thing, and I think if anything, like, it was just trying to be this kind of like lurid, crazy time, you know what I mean? Lionsgate really came off of doing like the Saw franchise pretty much, and so for this movie to even have gotten made and gotten anywhere, you know, I think was a pretty good deal, if anything. You know, and the fact that they even like were like, yeah, let's give Paz de la Huerta her own movie, like, good for her. You know what I mean? Yeah, even though I don't think this is there's a lot around this movie that is really just like not exactly great in terms of just like if anything, like, she wants to say that this like ruined her career, quote unquote. And I don't know about that really, because the thing about it is that I enjoy Paz de la Huerta for what she can do. However, it's not like she has this like huge range of what she does, truly. So, and if anything, like, I'd want Katrina Bowden to get other work as well. I think she is also somebody who only has so much range as well. Unfortunately to say that, but like, it's kind of true. But you know, she's super cute girl, you know, and all that. But I think if anything, like, you know, this movie was just made to make a film, really. I don't think there was like a ton of deep like commentary or anything like that to kind of go into with this. And so I think if anything, like, this movie is going to work for you if you kind of like that, you know, lurid trash, if you will. Like, if you like a movie that is campy, kind of weird and over the top, it definitely has gore in it too, which is always super fun, although a lot of it kind of is like CGI gore in a way. But like, you know, it is that kind of interesting mix of, you know, there's the obsession movie, like there's the obsession part of it, there's also just like the little, you know, mystery, like detective part of it as well. Not even a mystery because you know who the killer is the whole time, but like, you know, it's just one of those things of how they kind of deal with that. And I don't think it overstays its welcome. I mean, it's 84 minutes. I honestly think like it couldn't have been any longer than this, truly. And I think if anything, like, this movie has a interesting space. I didn't really get into, cause I don't really, I don't have much to say about it, but like, you could definitely kind of get into the whole, like, obsessive lesbian killer thing going on in this movie. I don't really want to get into that, to be honest, because if anything, like, it's just kind of tired, and a little reductive, to be honest. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, like, we've seen this before. Come on. Have you seen High Tension? Spoilers, but still, you know what I mean? But, like, you know, it's just like these things of, but again, I think it's people trying to, like, do something where you make something evocative and you make something that, you know, will kind of get the girls riled up, you know? And if anything, they did get that. I mean, they had people who wanted to protest this and boycott this movie, who were part of the nursing profession, who were just like, this is trash, and all that kind of stuff. And really, it kind of just faded into obscurity. And then you have weirdos like me who want to keep this trash alive and really kind of just enjoy it for what it is. So that's what I have to say about, you know, Nurse 3D. Is this movie is just kind of weird and crazy as hell, but I'm kind of into it though, and I'm not mad about ever watching it. I will say though, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I want to spend $24 on this on Amazon. Really, Amazon? Really? You kidding me? But you know what? Maybe I will though. Who knows? But yeah, you can get it on Amazon if you want to for like $24 on Blu-ray. That's cool. It does every so often come up on like I said, the Roku channel is what I watched it on. And also it was on Hulu back a while back. So that's how I actually first watched it, I believe. I don't think it comes on Tubi like that, though, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure you can probably catch it on Hulu or like Roku channel or something like that. That might be kind of fun to watch. You know, just kind of have that. I definitely think, if anything, like, you got to go into this just knowing that it's not the best movie in the world. But if anything, like, I can get into some trash. I can get into some kind of weird ass camp. You know what I mean? And I do think that just Paz de la Huerta's role in this in general is just worth seeing for at least once. You know what I mean? Like, because this movie is fucking wild. And then also just knowing the background that, like, she sued Lionsgate and a bunch of other people involved for $55 million because this quote ruined her career. You know, all you can do is just insert the Marsha Brady gif here, you know, okay? Sure, pause. All right, you know. But yeah, I just think that's kind of what we have in terms of this. And if anything, I do recommend this at least like a one-time watch. It's not going to be for everybody. But if anything, I think it's super fun. And if you want to see super naked Paz de la Huerta, you come to the right place, because this is exactly what you're going to get. You're going to see pretty much her whole vagina and like her boobs and everything. So like, you'll be able to see all of it, baby. You also get to see Corbin Bleu's butt, which is super fun to watch. You do not get to see Katrina Bowden naked, because she was like, not here, not now. So, but Paz was like, fuck it. Screw all of you. I'm doing this. So, there you go. Go off, sis. Good for you. But yeah, so that's a little bit, that's our episode on Nurse 3D, celebrating its 10-year, little anniversary, kind of, sort of. I just wanted to talk about it for sure. This is a movie where I gave this a 4 because I think it's just such trash, but it's such fun trash though. I can't help but enjoy myself when I see it, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I mean, couldn't pass it up. And it also premiered 10 years ago, in the US. So that's super fun and cool, and I had to do it. So yeah. But with all that being said, though, we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up now. So if you want to follow the show on social media, you can do so at Cult Cinema Circle on Instagram and also Twitter, X. I'm at Cult Cinema Circle, and you can also follow the show on Letterboxd at Jesse, Jesse Kremp, all one word. Or I guess if you look up Cult Cinema Circle, you can probably find me there. So I post like what I'm watching, and yeah, I post that. I post little reviews that I've done, things like that. Currently, right now, I am in the middle of doing because we're in the middle of Black History Month, so of course. But I'm doing a black horror movie every day. So if you've noticed that, I'm still going to keep doing that. So please give me suggestions if you want to. Thankfully, Letterboxd and other places I can find like something to kind of put out 30 days. You know what I mean? So who knows? I mean, I definitely want to kind of run the gambit with all of it. I want to find some really good ones, but then also I'm also willing to watch some trash movies too. Like I'm totally fine with that as well. But yeah, that's a little bit about that. And so also, please rate, comment, subscribe to the show. Give me 5 stars and a 1 to 2 sentence review on your podcatcher of choice, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Google Podcasts is going away, I think, next month or something. So you won't be able to find me there, but you can find me on Audible and all over the fucking place. So that'll be super fun. And yeah, and just listen to my show, support me. Like I love doing this and I enjoy it, so for sure. In terms of what we're going to be covering next week, well, we're doing a little something because next week is the consumerist holiday that is Valentine's Day. And I decided I wanted to cover a little movie from 2001, and I'm going to be covering the Jamie Blanks directed Valentine. Now, I'm not going to speak too much right now, but of course I had to do Valentine. Yeah, I have a certain place in my heart for this movie, and you'll hear more about that next week. But I will be covering that. If you've never heard of Valentine, and you want to know a little bit what it's about, so I mean, it's kind of about Valentine's Day, but not really though. It is from 2001, and Valentine is 4 friends start receiving morbid Valentine's cards, and they realize that they're being stalked by somebody that they had spurned 13 years ago, and then a masked killer is on the loose, and Valentine's Day is soon approaching. So that is what we're looking at in terms of Valentine. But yeah, I think that's everything that I can think right now, but thank you so much for listening to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. I hope you come back next week and listen. And remember, there is no cure for the married cock. Only me, the nurse. Take care, y'all. Bye.